Good day. I am Felix J. Knight, and this is Satanic Perspective. Good day to all. I'm glad you could join me for this video. Hail thyself, hail Satan. In this video, we will be going over the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple and my own personal interpretation of each one. For those who don't know, the Satanic Temple is a non-theistic satanic organization and has been active for about 10 years now, give or take. They've gained numerous members in that time, and congregations have formed all over the world. They have certainly gained plenty of notoriety through both bad and good publicity, and they have been heavily active here in the United States, especially when religious discrimination rears its ugly head. For anyone wanting to know more about the Satanic Temple, definitely check out their website, to which I will provide the link in the description. Now, I will let it be known that I am a member of TST, but to clarify, the explanations, interpretations, and advice I give here on this channel comes from my own mind and not officially for the organization. We Satanists do utilize the phrase, hail thyself, so in that regard, each of us applies the values and the morals of the Satanic Temple to fit our own personal lives, even when there are some other aspects that we overall together view as general rules for everyone. Now, there are, as I said, 7 tenets that the Satanic Temple encourages their members to follow. What I will do here is I will first list all 7 tenets, and then I will give my personal interpretation to each of them, and give you a bit of insight as to how a Satanist might apply it to their own way of living. And hopefully it could help to shed some light on Satanism for anyone wanting to know more. So here they are, the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple. Tenet 1. One should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. Tenet 2. The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. Tenet 3. One's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. Tenet 4. The freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of others is to forgo one's own. Tenet 5. Beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's beliefs. Tenet 6. People are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused. Tenet 7. Every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word. And there are all 7 tenets that the Satanic Temple encourages. Now, here are my interpretations of those tenets. One should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. To me, the first tenet is one of the most important. I feel that it's vital for me to be compassionate and to show empathy and kindness to everyone that I can, because hatred is a blighted, contagious disease, and if I decide to show hatred to others, it's going to spread. And I certainly don't need to ask any of you to imagine what it would be like to live in a world full of hatred. Just look at what's going on around us all. There's plenty of hatred, and it is showing. I think it goes without saying that a large percentage of humankind agrees that this world can definitely use more kindness. However, if I'm only complaining about the lack of kindness, and I'm not the one showing that compassion and kindness, then I'm nothing more than a hypocrite, and I'd have no right in complaining about the hatred in this world. I tend to view compassion and empathy as a sort of antivirus or medicine that is capable of eliminating the disease of hatred. And much like a medicine, it needs to be injected into society, and therefore it is up to everyone, to all of us, to have compassion, kindness, and empathy. Now, of course, there is the question, but Felix, what about those people who are just bitter and miserable and prefer to actually hate everyone? You know, those wretches who can be shown all the kindness in the world, but they actively choose to spread hatred in return. I believe that's why the first tenet also states in accordance with reason. Yeah, we all know that there are people out there who love to hate, and likely enough, we all personally know someone who is just that kind of person. Do those people deserve any sort of kindness at all? Maybe, maybe not. I really don't know. Everyone has a different opinion on that. But I think it certainly can be said that those kind of people are foolish to expect kindness in return for hatred. So then, do I show these people hatred, or do I show them kindness anyway? Personally, I try to show them neither. I do my best to make it a point to avoid hateful individuals as often as I can, and I try not to keep those kinds of people in my own circle of acquaintances. The first reason is because, as I said, hatred is a disease, and I don't need to surround myself with that kind of attitude. And secondly, I prefer to avoid direct conflict unless it's needed. Now, of course, there is no way that hatred can be avoided all the time. So what then if I happen upon someone who decides to be hateful? And if that's the case, I believe in standing up for oneself and not letting others push you around. So if someone decides to act in a hateful manner toward you, then by all means, defend yourself, say what you have to defend yourself, and hopefully get them to shut their mouth. Now, while I don't believe in looking for trouble, the truth is, in all reality, trouble cannot be avoided all the time. And it's completely asinine for a hateful person to act hateful and expect people not to retaliate. Keep in mind, defending yourself does not make you hateful in any form. So then, to sum up my view on the first tenet, it is of the utmost importance to be kind and compassionate toward others, but to never take any sort of mistreatment from anyone. Let's go to tenet number 2 now. The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. True and proper justice is something that we are promised here in the United States, and to be honest, everyone around the world deserves it. Unfortunately, certain institutions and certain people have influenced the way our government is run at times. There are those in power, as well as certain organizations, who insist that certain people do not deserve the same kind of rights as other people, and they base this solely on race, gender, sexual orientation, religious belief, and the list goes on. This is a direct violation of the justice that we are supposed to be guaranteed. And so, I believe that Tenet II states that there are indeed times where we must rise up and fight to either change or eliminate laws that are discriminatory, and to fight against institutions that seek special privileges for themselves alone, no one else included. One shining example of the Satanic Temple exercising Tenet II is the After School Satan Club, which I spoke about in a previous video. We Satanists are speaking out to school boards and city councils to say, hey, if you're going to insist on having Christian-based programs in schools, then it's only right that you allow other religions to have their own programs as well. And if you're not okay with other religions allowed into school, then we're going to have to ask you to remove your Christian programs as well. Either everyone gets to exercise their religious beliefs in school, or no one does. This also applies to religious monuments being displayed at government facilities. These places are meant to be secular, but numerous churches and religious organizations continuously arrange for the display of Christian-based monuments, such as statues of the Ten Commandments. But then they get upset when a statue of Baphomet is put on display. Again, it's not difficult to figure out. Either all religions can display monuments at government buildings, or no religion does, and these buildings remain strictly secular. Another more recent example is one that not only represents Tenet II, but Tenet III as well. In New Mexico, in just a few days' time from now, TST will be launching the world's first ever religious abortion clinic so as to protect the reproductive rights of women. Check it out if you get the chance. And we here at Satanic Perspective commend the Satanic Temple on this legendary milestone. Hail TST. I believe that when the laws of a country become oppressive and discriminatory, it's up to the citizens to speak out against these laws and do what's necessary to right any wrongs. I've said before that I prefer taking action as opposed to wishful hoping. And I believe that taking action definitely applies to us when it comes to Tenet II. And when it comes to the classic instance of traditionalists arguing, well, this is the law, so that's just how it is, get used to it, we have to be willing to stand and say, then it's time to either change this law or get rid of it so we can all have the freedom and the rights that everyone deserves. Yes, justice is far more important and foremost than any law, institution, or religious beliefs. And if any of those laws or institutions prohibit justice or rights for any person, then it needs to be changed or eliminated. Let's move on to Tenet III. One's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. Plain and simple. The only person who gets to control their body is themselves alone and no one else. And this applies to more than just abortions. When someone reaches the proper age, it is their choice on whether they get things such as tattoos, piercings, body modifications, etc. Furthermore, if someone doesn't feel comfortable being male or being female, or either, then it is their decision alone whether they want to change their gender. Also, let's say someone feels like they put a little too much weight on and they maybe want to lose a few pounds. That's their decision. But let's also not forget that if someone is perfectly content with their weight or size, then honestly, no one has the right to tell them that they should lose weight, gain weight, whatever. Tenet III is one of the most outspoken tenets in today's world, and with good reason. As I've stated before, there are politicians and lawmakers that are trying to completely delegalize both abortion and gender changing, despite the fact that neither of those aspects are anyone's business but the business of the person getting the abortion or the gender change. You see, whether we like it or not, abortion does not directly affect anyone but the mother of the unborn, non-sentient fetus, and in many instances, this effect is a matter of life or death for the mother. I believe that it goes without saying that this decision should be entirely and 110% up to the mother and no one else, especially politicians who honestly have nothing, they have better and more important things to focus on than whether a fetus they will never even meet is aborted or not. Likewise, someone changing their gender does not directly affect anyone but the person changing their gender, and perhaps to some tiny extent their partner as well. And I just want to note right now that I have yet to come across one person of a changed gender whose partner did not support them. I just want to put that out there. While the decision might disappoint some people, it does not directly affect them in any way, shape, or form. If a parent, family member, or a friend is disappointed in someone for changing their gender identity, then they are free to feel that way. But their disappointment is their issue, and it does not give anyone any sort of right to tell them, or anyone else for that matter, that they have to remain the same gender that they were born as. Now, in a future video, I will very likely discuss Tenet III more in depth. But right now, to sum up my beliefs and opinions on Tenet III is this. No one but you and you alone has any sort of right to tell you what to do with your own body. Tenet number 4, the freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forego one's own. We here in the United States and in some other parts of the world have been promised certain freedoms by our ruling governments. And those freedoms are to be respected even if someone might not necessarily agree with a number of these freedoms. One of the biggest questions that is asked about this tenet is, why the freedom to offend? Because everyone has the right to be offended, just as everyone has the right to their own thoughts. But some thoughts should not be acted on just as certain instances of feeling offended, because doing so complicates or even nullifies freedoms that have been promised. Here's an example of what I mean by that. As I've said, although the Christian church is quick to impose their beliefs on others, anytime that someone says or does something that doesn't line up with their own personal morals, somewhere out there, a Christian is the first to stand up and say, this should not be allowed because it is offensive to our beliefs. Let me give you a prime example of that. And that's when a same-sex couple gets married. It has already been made a federal law now that same-sex marriage is allowed here in the United States. But everywhere there are Christians saying that gay marriage is offensive to Christianity because their Bible supposedly speaks out against it. And they ask repeatedly for this law to be removed, but in doing so, they would be taking away a freedom that is promised for everyone. This would be wrong, and it goes completely against what the United States stands for, and it is simply not the right thing to do. Plain and simple. Furthermore, the Christians themselves have been offending a number of people and cultures for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and then they also have the nerve to complain about how easily people are offended at everything nowadays, when they themselves take offense whenever they see something that doesn't line up with their personal beliefs. All in all, to me, Tenet IV means this. You should respect the freedoms of others that have been promised, even if you don't agree with it, even if it offends you. And if you're going to insist on certain people's freedoms be removed because you don't like it, then you need to expect to have your own freedoms taken away as well, because freedom here is for everyone. Let's go on to Tenet V. Beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's beliefs. Now, this is an issue that has been going on for quite a long time as well. For years, ever since science became widespread, certain people, especially religious zealots, have been blindly and stubbornly dismissing facts that are scientifically proven to be true in exchange for blindly believing their own personal beliefs. For example, many people believe that the Earth is only a few thousand years old, despite it being scientifically proven to be millions, if not billions, of years old. They also believe that dinosaurs walked beside men and that all dinosaurs were killed in an enormous worldwide flood that was sent about by an almighty deity, even though anyone who has done in any sort of research can tell you that there is no evidence to back up those claims, but instead, we actually have evidence that proves otherwise. For me, I don't assume anything to be completely true unless I know that it has been factually and scientifically proven so. And it is senseless to insist that certain things are the absolute truth just because a book, religion, or person may say that it's true, especially when there are facts that back up another truth. I personally have no problem saying that I don't know if something is true or not because I just don't have enough evidence to prove it so. And I feel that a number of other Satanists and other people are also perfectly okay with admitting that they don't know the truth to a number of questions out there. I feel that there are times where it is the wiser option to admit that we don't know something, instead of stubbornly insisting on something you really know nothing on. You see, being willing to say that you don't know, that actually leaves room open for learning the truth. Whereas refusing to look past your own opinions and beliefs is very capable of preventing you from learning any sort of truth at all. So, for Tenet V, we have to remember that science is real, and we are all merely human and we are not all knowing. And most importantly, there are things out there that have yet to be proven, and there are even more things that have been factually disproven or factually proven. And claiming to know all of the truth and have all the answers based only on writings, opinions, or religious teachings alone is one of society's greatest follies. Now for Tenet VI. People are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that might have been caused. As I said before, we are all human and we're not perfect. From time to time, we do things the wrong way. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. And if it does happen, then it is up to us to correct any harm or wrongdoings to the best of our abilities. I'll go ahead and state a personal opinion of mine here. Most of the time, when we make a mistake, it is exactly that, a mistake. And chances are, we might not have even been aware that we were doing anything wrong at the time. Which is why, if and when someone points out our mistake, we should take accountability for our actions and rectify the situation. We cannot be stubborn and refuse to look at any wrongs we've done, and we certainly cannot act as if we are perfect and we never make any mistakes. People who do act like this quickly become toxic to everyone around them, as they feel like they don't have to answer to any of their mistakes. And when they do that, the harm that they bring upon others, it goes unresolved. And like a wound, the harm can become infected, so to speak, and it will cause even worse harm, not only to those who have been hurt, but also to the person who caused the harm to begin with, even if they might refuse to believe that they are affected by it in any way. Now, I also believe that another aspect of this tenet lies in the first sentence. People are fallible. Personally, I think that in addition to implying that people are bound to make mistakes, it also speaks to those on the other side. Meaning that if someone wrongs us and that person acknowledges it and does what they can to correct their mistake, then it would be wrong for us to hold grudges or to harbor anger toward that person as long as it was an honest mistake, or if they see the severity of the damage they caused. Harboring resentment toward another can only cause more problems in addition to the problem that they're trying to solve. When we are the person who has been wronged, it falls to us to acknowledge when the wrongdoer does what is necessary to repair any damage. Just like the old saying goes, two wrongs will not make a right. And when applying Tenet VI, we have to remember that we are all human beings. We're not perfect, and accountability for our actions is necessary for all of us to become better people. And likewise, when holding someone else accountable for their actions, it is important for us to allow them to actually rectify their mistakes. And in this regard, we can all work toward being better toward one another. And finally, Tenet VII. Every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word. To me, the seventh tenet explains why we apply these tenets to our lives. Our causes, both personal and otherwise, should be noble causes. We need to strive to do the right thing. It's been said by the Satanic Temple that their overall mission is to encourage benevolence and empathy among everyone. These 7 tenets help us in showing benevolence and empathy to our fellow humans, and doing so continues to shine a more positive light on Satanists overall. It lets others out there see that Satanism is not the evil, murderous, and hateful religion that it has wrongly been portrayed as for years. If we want more compassion, kindness, wisdom, and justice in this world, then it starts with us in the Satanic Temple. We have to spread these virtues to other people in order to see it spread out among society and mankind as a whole. And little by little, day by day, the spirit of compassion, justice, and wisdom is prevailing over a flawed society that is way past due for a change, a society that thrives on the spirit of hatred, injustice, intolerance, and blind faith. Day by day, everywhere we look, oppressive laws are changing, and rights and freedoms are finally being granted to those who deserve it just as much as those who already have those rights. And while we still might have a little bit further to go before our ultimate goal is reached, we are steadfast in our progress. We have not stood down, nor will we, in spite of whatever obstacles that other people might try to throw in our path. And we can reach our ultimate goal by continuing to apply these tenets to our ways of life. And there you have it. Those are my personal views on the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple. Hey, with that said, I'd love to hear other people's views and personal opinions. So if you follow these tenets, feel free to leave a comment letting me know how you apply them to your day-to-day life and how you think Satanists and other people could benefit from these tenets. Feel free to let me know. Anyway, I think that's about all the time we have right now, and we'll talk soon on the next video. Good day to everyone, and as always, thank you for tuning in to Satanic Perspective. Hail Satan!